Hello and welcome to the Patty Pod, episode 9. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm doing well. It is a 1 week back to, it's been 1 week, I should say, of regular life for me at my job, as we had our first full week back at school. Probably similar for most people, the first full week of their jobs. I think everyone had Monday off the previous week for New Year's Day. Observed. It was a good week. It was hard getting back into the swing of things again. I think that's normal at least it's common, I would imagine. But I started to feel it. I started to feel more like I was back into the swing of things, so that was good. I just got done with the weekend of hockey. This is Monday, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. January 16th. I hope everyone had a good day off. I played 3 games of hockey in 4 days. That was fun. I had played 1 game of hockey in 20 days prior to that. I played I think the day before New Year's Eve or something like that, or maybe it was New Year's Day night. And then I got sick. I was telling my friends, I don't know what it was that got me sick. Maybe the 3 fish shows in a row with a bunch of spun wooks, as they're called. That's the nickname for real kind of phased out kind of hippie types that go to the fish shows. There's not a lot of them anymore, but there's a decent amount. And there's a decent amount of sort of half hippies, who may not be the most careful with their infectious diseases protocols. So hanging out with them for 20,000 of that crew, singing our lungs out, may have done it. Though I did wear my mask. I don't know if I mentioned that last time. I think I was one of like a half of a percent that had a mask on in the stadium. But anyway, I'm feeling better. I'm still not 100%, but I'm pretty close. It's just, I don't know what it is. If it's these, if there are more virulent strains of flu and cold and whatever, maybe I had COVID. I tested negative, but it just has been a gradual. Every day I have a little bit of congestion, so that's kind of frustrating, but I felt good enough to play hockey, and I'll take it. I felt good enough. I felt better each day, and I felt good enough to work, and I'll take feeling better each day. So it was a fun weekend. I played Friday nights. I hung out a little bit afterwards and chatted with some of my buddies. I considered playing a second game because they needed guys. There's always 2 games a night. And I'm friends more with the other group, and they were playing after me. But I just felt like I shouldn't push it. And I'm glad I didn't. I was thinking about my respiratory sickness, but I'm getting to be an achy old guy. I know I used to, when I was like in my 20s and 30s, and I'd hear people in their 40s, joking around about being old, and I kind of rolled my eyes. But there's a little something to that. I have hip impingement. I found out from my sister-in-law, Zan, who's an orthopedic surgeon. That's what ended my hockey career. We didn't know what it was at the time. I guess the surgeons didn't know. But that's what it is. So I realized, I got that going. I did something to my knee when I was back on break. My brother Nick rented some snowmobiles. And we are not a snowmobiling family. We didn't grow up that way. It's like how do I describe if you're a snowmobiling family in Minnesota? It's sort of like if you are like a Protestant or a Catholic. It's sort of like sort of dictate, maybe more important in how it dictates your lifestyle. But it's kind of something like that you're born into, like religion, I guess. The folks up there who snowmobile generally take it seriously. When I was a kid, you used to see just kind of like groups of people walking around they would wear snowmobile jackets like Ski-Doo or Polaris was the other big company. And I think it mattered what what brand you chose. Kind of like truck guys are real into, Ford or Chevy or Dodge. So that wasn't us. My grandparents had them, and they had this little kid version, and we would ride that little kid version, which I loved when I was a little kid. But then as we got older, we didn't. And it's funny why it's such a cultural divide. Like, you either do it and then like you're all about it, or you don't do it and then you never do it. But they're fun. They are fun, which I think is probably my brother's thinking. And my parents have this cabin up by this lake that's outside of town with all these woods, and they have all these trails. So we got out there and we snowmobiled. It was fun. I don't know if I would want to do it a ton. I had the same feeling snowmobiling that I do downhill skiing, which is the same kind of feeling or thinking that keeps me from getting a motorcycle, which is I can only go so fast at this and be safe. And if generally at those speeds, it's not that much fun. And I mean, there's been moments on the ski hill where I'm like, I'm going to ramp it up a little bit. And then I catch an edge and I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I am absolutely not. So I guess I've gotten to that point in my life at that age as well, where I'm just not going to do those things. Cause like I was saying, I realized, so when we were snowmobiling, I got stuck in the ditch. I got my snowmobile stuck in the ditch. And those things are like 600 pounds, I guess. I looked it up. And my brother and I could not push the thing back onto the trail. We had this Good Samaritan stop by who was like, just happened to be coming on this trail, which was kind of unusual because we didn't see a ton of snowmobilers. But anyway, this guy came up and we were blocking his path. So I guess he didn't have much of a choice. But he totally was nice and jumped off his snowmobile and helped us, and the three of us finally got it on there. I was like trying to hide how ineffective, I guess, non-effective, what's the word I'm looking for, ineffective my pushing was. My brother was like, my brother's side would get way higher up on the side of the hill than mine, and then this guy came in and then my side looked better, and I kind of just tried to I don't know, just push as hard as I could, get near the guy so they couldn't tell that my pushing was getting us nowhere. But somehow in the course of that, I think it was that a day or two later, I felt like a really sore knee. The next day we drove down to Minneapolis, and my legs in kind of this one sort of stiff position for a while, and maybe that contributed, but I couldn't bend down into like a squat. I was trying to do something and tried to like squat down to get something, and I couldn't do it, and it's still kind of sore. So I've got the hip impingement, and I have a sore hip on the other side, so both hips are sore. I realized this today as I was tying my skates and getting up. Both hips, my knee, my lower back, and my upper back, as I was sort of cracking it as I stood up. And I don't know. I mean, I have a bit of a toothache too, which is something that I'm trying to schedule a dentist appointment. It's taking me some time, but in any case, that's kind of a lot. So yesterday I was sitting on the couch and I was just like, oh my God, I was so tired and sore. And today when I was trying to get some stuff out of my bag, and I realized I've gotten to the point in my life now where bending over is the enemy. Like, I do whatever I can to not bend over, which I didn't think I'd reach that point at this point in my life. So anyway, but despite all that, it was really fun hockey. Played Friday night ice, like I mentioned. I played Saturday. We couldn't get a game, if I remember right. We don't have our normal spot on Saturdays, and I'm trying to get people to play at this alternative spot. It's right under the Brooklyn Bridge. It's where the Brooklyn Bridge meets the edge of Manhattan, where there's a highway called the FDR. So it's not convenient because it's way on the edge of the island. It's not near any subway stations. Probably not great. There's not great parking around there. And it's in a housing projects complex. So it's not the nicest neighborhood. I mean, it feels plenty safe. We played in broad daylight, so I've not felt at all not safe. But I don't know. Sometimes people like the sexy neighborhoods, and that's not one of them. So we didn't get a game on I couldn't get guys to play Saturday, despite my efforts at that spot. And but we did. It was probably for the best because I probably needed the rest. I did get a chance to play though on Sunday, and then I got a chance to play today, so I can't complain. Sunday. Speaking of Sunday, I watched the Vikings play. I have not watched. I don't think I've watched a complete Vikings game this year. I'm normally playing hockey when they play. I do catch highlights. I am the biggest fair weather fan that you'll ever meet of the Vikings. I kind of check in to see if I should jump on the bandwagon. I've been texting my family the whole year. I texted them before the year. I do this with baseball with the Twins too. Should I be paying any attention, guys? And all of the men in my family are fans of both the Twins and the Vikings. So they give me their tidbits. And this whole year, I don't know if I checked in after the first couple weeks, but I don't know, probably by week 3 or 4, I checked in. And, every single week I'd get this report about how they're a terrible team. They have no chance. This stat is terrible. That stat is terrible. This guy's terrible. That guy's terrible. This part of the defense is terrible. So on and so on. But they kept winning, and they kept winning and winning and winning. And the line was usually about how the teams they beat weren't very good. But then they kind of beat a few good teams. And then, they ended the year, I think they were 12-5 or something like that. Like one of the better teams. They got into the playoffs. So, I haven't had a team win a championship. I mean, the Bulldogs won some national championships, but I was super, super bandwagony with them. And I started watching them more regularly after they won their last championship. And then I bought the package where I could watch them on TV. So I can't really count that. I'd like to, but I can't count that. And before then, it has been one of my teams hasn't won anything since 1991 when the Twins won the World Series for the second time. I had super good fortune as a boy living in a very small market state by having the Twins win 2 World Series when I was in 1987 and 1991. I think I was in 3rd grade and 5th grade, which are absolutely prime years for baseball fandom, at least for me. I was playing Little League those years, and I was really into baseball. And, our team was routinely one of the lowest payrolls, and they pulled it off, which was awesome. The state was so grateful. I mean, there wasn't a cynical fan in the state. And we set these noise records at the stadium, at the Metrodome at the stadium during the game. So, it was maybe I just got all my good sports fandom mojo early and it's over. I hope not. The Rangers got to the Stanley Cup final. That's my hockey team. The North Stars left on me, so I wasn't so into it when the Wild came. I wasn't even into hockey that much when the Wild came, so but when I got here, I'd been back into hockey, and I just adopted the Rangers. I wanted a local team to cheer for. Anyway, they got into the Stanley Cup final a few years ago and lost. It was a good final. We lost in 6 games, but they were close games. That was a heartbreaker because I knew we had the team to win it, and I knew it may not be. That may not be the case for a while. They've been good. They've been ahead of schedule according to the pundits, but in ahead of schedule in their rebuild. But I don't know. No one's betting on them to win it all, I don't think. So tough to see the Vikings. So I watched the Vikings game, and it was tough to see them lose it. It was a close game, which I guess I'm glad. I'm glad that it was close. It made it exciting, but it just ended with such a whimper. I mean, we've been scoring all day, and we needed to score again, and I kind of was, I sort of just was, I don't know, I lost track. I was eating some French fries or something, and I looked up and I was like, oh man, it's fourth down already. The next thing I know, our quarterback throws this ball that's like 5-6 yards short of the line of the first down line, and I guess that was his best option. I don't know. I couldn't see everything that he was seeing, but guy gets tackled and it's over. So that's tough. That's Vikings fandom for you, as everyone will tell you. It's heartbreak after heartbreak. They've never won a Super Bowl. They've been extant since 1960, I believe. 4 Super Bowl losses. Just a tragic NFC Championship game loss in 1998 when I was following very closely. Our kicker, who hadn't missed a kick all year, including some long ones, duffed a gimme 35-yarder to win it, and we ended up losing. So I don't know. I also placed a bet with my oldest brother, Brendan. He wanted to place $20 on the game, but I said, why doesn't the loser say in front of everyone at Christmas next year, have to say, the winner's name with it, for him it would have been Patrick is right again, as usual. What a smart guy. But now I have to say Brendan is right again, as usual. What a smart guy at Christmas next year in front of the whole crew. So one of my friends, I told my friends at hockey that story, and he said, no, man, you should have made it doing the dishes. And I was like, I'd rather clean the whole house than have to say that in front of my whole family. But hey, that's what optimists do. We make bets on our teams. So that was Sunday. I mentioned previously about how when I was home, my mom saw the bowl of cereal that I was pouring, and she said, "Are you going to eat all of that?" And I had more to come after that. Well, yesterday I got home from hockey. I get really stuck in a food rut. I eat the same thing all the time. I have peanut butter toast for breakfast every morning. And then I often eat like leftovers or like soup a lot. Every once in a while I'll get pizza for lunch. That's for lunches. And then, Kate cooks, and I'm grateful for that. And whatever she cooks, I'll eat, because I'm so glad to have somebody cook, because I'm such I'm a lackluster cook, and I have no enthusiasm for it. So, not none, but very little, especially on a day-to-day basis. I'm just, I don't know, for whatever, it's just like a little hang-up that I have. But yeah, anyway, so on the weekends, though, I make breakfast. I make they call them home fries out here. They're like hash browns, but they're not shredded. So I just like dice up potatoes and I roast them on a roasting pan. They're really good. And then I make omelets for me and Kate, and maybe just like, I'll just melt some cheese and put it over, eggs over easy. And I do that like every Friday and Saturday for the most part. But it can take a long time for the potatoes to roast, especially. So sometimes I don't do it. Yesterday, if I have a hockey game that I got to leave a little bit earlier for, if I'm taking the subway. So that was the case yesterday. And, I didn't get up early enough. So I decided I was going to make, I bought this Beyond Beef stuff for this weekend to kind of just change it up. So for lunch, I made these Beyond Beef cheeseburgers, I should say, and fries. And it was a good portion. It's a good size. It was a half-pound burger, and I made, 4 or 5 potatoes worth of these oven French fries that I make. They're kind of just like roasted potatoes again, but I cut them in wedges so they feel like French fries. And I ate this whole thing watching the game. Yeah, watching the game, and Kate was like, she's like, well, I'm going to have dinner in a little bit. I'm like, yeah, me too. And she's like, you are? So I'm getting this food shame. I'm taking incoming, from all sides here. It's difficult. And pizza, cheeseburger, fries, and pizza, hash browns, pancakes, and cake. I think those really are the proof of God's existence. So I'm going to be continuing to eat those whenever I get a chance. This week, I was also reminded that my cat is deeply biased. I've known that, but I got a really good demonstration of it. When somehow Gunther, our cat, can sense when Kate's coming home, she'll be, I don't know, 30 seconds from coming through the door, and he'll start picking his head up and looking at the door, and then as soon as she gets near, he trots over all jauntily, and she enters, and he's meow, 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 and she's petting him, and they're having a big love fest. And when I came in yesterday, and he was curled up on the couch in this little ball, and I come and open the door, and I'm like, "Hi guys," and he picks his head up, looks at me, sees that it's me, and then puts his head back down and curls back up. I think I might have heard him say, "Oh," like, that's how bad it was. Still got the cough. Anyway, I also, when I was on the train today, I noticed that I saw these kids looking out the window, and they were checking out the skyline of Manhattan and the skyline of downtown Brooklyn. There's actually a really awesome view from my subway line. It goes above ground when it gets into Brooklyn. It really is. It kind of starts to curve, and it sort of looks like a little, almost like a play set when you look at it from above. Like if you're in a high rise and you're looking at the line at that point, it's kind of this cute little sort of, it looks like this quaint little scene with this elevated train making the curve. And anyway, so you can see these great views of downtown Brooklyn and of Manhattan, and these kids were just like, like three of them, they're probably 4 or 5 years old, and they were like kneeling up on the seat and turning around so they could look out the window. And man, I thought about that. I thought about our niece just texted Kate this weekend for the first time. She has an iPad, I guess, now, and she found the message feature, and she texted Kate, and I don't know, she was wondering if it was working, and then, they went back and forth a little bit, and then she had to say goodnight, and she's like, well, I've got to say goodnight, and she sent this little emoji of a dog, like, falling over and falling asleep, and I was thinking about that, and then I was thinking about, my brother told me that my niece, who is this, like, super enthusiastic, really warm-hearted, tomboyish girl who loves to play sports, she loves the gritty, that little dance move that's popular with athletes now, and she saw a bunch of dudes doing it at the Vikings game, and so when she was in her hockey game, after she scored, like, her 10th goal of the game, she started doing the gritty, even though the game, like, continues. They don't stop the game at that level, which I thought was hilarious. Like, if you know the girl, you would love to see it. And anyway, I was thinking of those things, and I just thought about how, if we could somehow bottle up whatever that is that kids have, like they just naturally have, there's like no sense of shame, right? I guess maybe that's it. They have this wonder and this joy, and they just are themselves. Like they just do whatever they want. And for the most part, it doesn't bother other people. And, of course they, bump into each other metaphorically as well as physically. And, most of the times they kind of work it out, is what I've observed from kids, especially at that age. And, man, if we could all be more like that, I think if I could be more like that, it would be, and I think you can. I think you can just kind of remind yourself of those things and try to put your thoughts in those directions when you're thinking about it. It was great to see. It was great to have those moments. Good reminders. I heard something about tarot cards this week that I don't know much about tarot cards. I kind of like with spirituality stuff, sort of the more specific it gets, the less I'm sort of into it. That's everything from, when I was a kid, I guess, I never was that interested in doing the rosary or something like that. And various, there's all sorts of like self-help and spiritual authors who will say, do this 30-day whatever gratitude list or journaling or whatever. And I don't know. I mean, the more specific something gets, like, I don't get that into it because I feel like you can just get kind of caught up in trying to do this activity, and it can become a chore. Anyway, so tarot kind of feels like that to me. Like, I don't really want to think through how accurate it is or what isn't accurate. And, I think if you do the big things right, like stay hopeful, love yourself, stop beating yourself up, the rest of it kind of takes care of itself. But in any case, I'm also open to all that stuff working. Especially, I mean, maybe it's all within ourselves anyways, and it's not those external things. I think that's probably true, but I'm even open to the idea that that some of this stuff just works. And so anyway, I heard about tarot cards this week. Someone was talking about how, I guess, there's the character or card you can draw that's the Fool, and then there's a card you can draw that's the Magician. And the Fool apparently is like sort of representative of when you start something. And the Fool is pictured usually with a bag or sack or something. And I guess the idea is that you have everything you need in that bag, and you eventually over time will learn how to use the things that you have in your bag effectively. And at the end, that's when you become the magician, kind of like the master. And I love that. I don't know why. I think I like these ideas of stories or of sort of wisdom that are character and story based, because we get so much talk about data and data interpretation. And, you're always trying to think about, at least I was, how to, whatever, be more efficient, or, there's this scientism, that's a term I learned, scientism, where these sort of ways of knowing and ways of trying to improve are really based on the sciences, which, I think the difference between the physical sciences and the social sciences are vast. I mean, I think some techniques are crossover, but you don't get the sort of certainty that you're going to get in chemistry and physics. You're not going to get that kind of certainty in psychology or sociology, like not even close. So it's not the same thing. I think I don't think we should call them social sciences. I think we should call them disciplines that are social disciplines. I think would be a better name for it. There's wisdom in those disciplines for sure. There's crafts in those disciplines. There's knowledge in those disciplines. But anyway, it's a little bit of a tangent. But I do like these kind of character or story based approaches. And so, yeah, I don't know why that grabbed me though. So I think it's because it's a reminder that you have what you need when you're going about, and that not to expect that you're going to be a master when you start something. Even midway through your career, you're not a master. Usually you're probably a mid-career professional or a mid-career person or whatever. Maybe that strikes a chord with me because I'm in my 5th year, and it's like my first year is kind of being the head teacher. So I do have to remember that. And I don't know, I think it's a good thing to remember. That was a little bit about that. I said bag. That's the one word that Kate teases me about with my Minnesota accent. I think when I got to college, I wanted to seem really cool and urbane, and I dropped a bit of my Minnesota accent. I think me and all my friends did, even though we lived in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. And I don't think I have a strong one, but apparently with that word, we were betrayed by that word, bag, and other sort of whatever that sound is. So other words that have that same sound. I think it's bag. I think it's more bag. Like, I think other people, I should say it's more like, like a short A, like an apple, like cat. I suppose that's how people say bag. Like it sounds like cat or apple or something. Anyway, I had to use it in my math class, and the kids were just laughing their heads off. So anyway, I do do a Minnesota accent, and I they just sort of they laugh when I do a southern. I do accents for the kids. They laugh when I do a southern accent. They seem to like that. But the Minnesota when I do the Minnesota one, they just kind of look at me with their mouths agape, like they don't know what to make of it, and they don't want to be rude, but I don't think it sounds good to their ear. Some of them kind of giggle, but it's funny when it's funny. Their reaction, it's funny to me. Speaking of Minnesotan stuff, I followed up my Beyond Beef patties or cheeseburgers with Beyond Beef bratwursts today. And, I thought to myself, I don't think there's another word that reminds me more of like what a Midwestern man is, at least when I was a kid. I was always like, Bill, what are you guys doing for the game then? Well, we're probably going to do a couple brats. We're going to be doing burgers, of course, and then maybe a cheesy knockwurst. It's always, always guys with the trucker hats, the kind of often the tinted glasses, mustaches, those like vinyl jackets, like kind of bowling league jackets, but, might have said, the construction company they worked for. Brats. There's always brats. Beer brats. Oh, I love those cheesy beer brats. Those beer brats, those things are great. We're going to get a few of those. We're going to throw a few of those on there. And knockwurst too. That's always one. It's I feel like there was always a guy named Rusty in the group. Whatever group it was, the dads I'd be with. There was a Rusty, Bill, a John, and there was always a Rusty. I almost feel like if some group didn't have a Rusty, somebody, from the county would eventually show up and be like, hey, fellas, look, listen, we let a lot of things go here. We saw, you guys were speeding on the snowmobile trails last week, but, you guys don't have a Rusty in the crew, and we're not going to let that one go. My hands are tied. I don't know. It must have been because everyone had somebody like that. Today is MLK Day, and I think about MLK, and actually I really, really love Martin Luther King. Like, I'm so impressed by it. So impressed by the nonviolent nature of his work, him and Gandhi. Like, it's kind of incredible to even go there, I think. And I'll just say that, well, I listened to MLK's speech when I was 2008, and I didn't have anything going on that weekend, and I was like thinking about volunteering for Obama, and I got it kind of pushed me over the edge listening to his mountaintop speech. And that's when I decided to go. I had to go to Philly because that was the closest place to volunteer for Obama, because Hillary Clinton had New York wrapped up in the primaries. And so I went to Philly, and that's where I met Kate. So I always feel kind of a special connection to Martin Luther King, and partially because of that. There's this idea, I think, sometimes that this dichotomy, they used to talk about dichotomies of whether things are getting better or not. And then in philosophy, they talk about, it's called the teleological, this sort of idea that things are goal-oriented, or that the whole universe is goal-oriented, that it's getting better, and that there's progress. But that's sometimes contrasted, at least in the West, in the philosophy world, with this Nietzschean idea of the eternal return, which is that things just are the same, essential things are happening over and over again. It's just kind of the accidental particulars that are different. But, and I think you can make a strong case for that. I really do. Like, when people talk about generations, I always think that way. Like, people always complain about the next generation. I'm like, this has just been happening probably since the dawn of time. The cave people were probably like, hey, these children these days, they don't even want to roll the rocks down the hill to try to squash the antelope. They want to, they want us to roll the rocks down. I mean, whatever, like, I swear, because I hear it so much. And I even start to hear it from like young people now about the next generation, which is crazy. Anyway, if you don't believe me, just remember what the greatest generation said about the baby boomers and their pelvis shaking Elvis Presley music and, all that. Not to mention their hippiedom. So anyway, but I can see that there is this, of course, empires rise and fall and all of that. So there can be a strong reading for this eternal return idea. But I do think that, I mean, the human consciousness has just changed so much. And there's, despite like what can seem like setbacks to some people in our country in terms of the rights of some people, and, I don't know, what was considered acceptable has changed so much. If you think about, well, I'll just leave it at that to not get too political. But I think that, there are some things that are better. I mean, yes, there are problems with human trafficking, but, slavery is not an option anymore. That used to be an option. That used to be something that a nation could do to another nation not that long ago, in the United States. I mean, it's crazy how recently that happened. And, that will, you never say never, but I feel like that's off the table, for the future. And, poverty levels have dropped pretty dramatically in the last 20, 30 years worldwide. There has been in China and India and Russia and Brazil to some degree, millions and millions have been lifted out of poverty. So I think that there is this teleology, and I think I talk about that now because of Martin Luther King's quote about how the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Meaning that it can be hard to perceive the bend in a short amount of time, It takes a long time in like a distant perspective to see that it is bending towards justice, because it doesn't look like it is often if you think about the day-to-day things, but I do think it is. So I take some solace in that. I'm going to wrap it up for today on that. I hope you guys have a great Martin Luther King break, and I hope everyone's well. Peace and love.